Hi, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to our weekly Torah conversation. Your loyalty, your love of these conversations, I have to tell you, is truly extraordinary. And once again, I need to tell you that I am very, very grateful. One of my favorite terms in Hebrew is dveikut. When modern Israelis use the term dveikut, they're talking about dedication, a commitment to a particular cause or to an activity. Dveikut, dedication. From the same root, we have the modern Hebrew term for glue, devik. To be glued to something, to really be attached to something. But in the Kabbalah, dveikut means something different. It is a powerful meditative state of cleaving to God. As a matter of fact, frequently the term isn't dveikut, it's dveikus, kind of like an Ashkenazis pronunciation to make things seem like we're back in medieval Europe. A couple of days ago, I experienced both dveikut and dveikus as I watched the second game of the World Series, a game that lasted 4 hours, 20 minutes. I must have been in a trance. I had no sense as to how much time had passed. I was literally glued, devek, glued to my seat. I'm going to have to go back to the Zohar fairly soon to find a proper explanation as to what exactly I was experiencing during my dveikus during the World Series. Okay, in any event, our Sedra this week is Lech Lecha, beginning with Genesis 12:1. The story is wonderfully familiar. God calls to Abram 10 generations after the story of Noah and the flood. Lech Lecha me'artzecha. Get out, go forth, leave your land, your birthplace, your family home, and go to the land that I will show you. And 75-year-old Abram, and accompanied by his wife Sarai, obeys. They end up in Canaan. Then they have an encounter in Egypt. They come back to Canaan. They grow wealthy. Abram enters into 2, maybe 3 different britot, covenants with God. The covenant bein habetarim, the covenant between the pieces, and then the covenant of circumcision. Abram receives God's promise that Abram's descendants will be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the dust upon the earth, and that the land of Canaan is to become the land of promise. After a war is fought, then Abram and Sarai become Abraham and Sarah, and some other lesser occurrences. God promises that Sarah will give birth to a son, and Abraham literally falls down laughing. Did I fail to mention in this listing that encounter with Melchizedek, king of Salem, in which an offering of bread and wine occurs for the very first time in any biblical account. And Melchizedek is referred to here as Kohen El Elyon, a Kohen to God Most High. This pagan king is a Kohen to El Elyon. Wow. Okay, so that's it. So much of the prehistory of our people is found within our single Torah portion. And yet I've only begun to touch upon the richness of our text. It's all there. If you want to experience what is meant by, when it says in Pirkei Avot, the so-called ethics of the fathers, when it says, hafoch bo v'hafoch bo kikola bo, go around with it, go search it through, search it carefully, because everything is inside of it. Well, this week's Sedra, that really fits the bill. That's what this is about. For example, a little bit of play here. A good Zionist reading of our text assures us that God wasn't sending Abram to some unknown place. Well, how do we know this? Glad that you asked. Because God tells Abram to go to Haaretz Asher Areka. Go to Haaretz, the land that I will show you. That's usually the way it's translated. Nonsense, our Zionist teachers would tell us. God is really telling Abram that he should go to Haaretz. Haaretz. The contemporary way of referring to the state of Israel is called Haaretz. So what God is really telling Abram, and we didn't pick up for several thousand years, but now we know, God is telling Abram, go to the land, haaretz, capital T, capital L, go to the land, the real place. Get ready for some outstanding falafel. Abram, you're going home to the land promised to you. Okay, and that covenant between the pieces. One of the most mysterious passages in the Torah, a passage that led the great commentator Ibn Ezra to question some elements of divine revelation, which is totally astonishing. But even more than that, Baruch Spinoza, Benedict Spinoza, uses this incident of the Bein Habitarim, this covenant between the pieces, as a basis for his total rejection of the entire concept of divine revelation. You want to check out the covenant? Look, Genesis 15, 9-21. It's not very large. It is just totally mind-blowing. So what's going on here? It's currently impossible to know, except to sense that not everything in the Torah is blessed with pure rationality, pure objectivity. Abram is having an ecstatic vision, not unlike the visions of Balaam, remember that? And King Saul, and later of Ezekiel on his sides, catatonic, others. And that ecstatic vision is somehow connected with the obligation of circumcision, and then with our going into slavery in Egypt and being strangers in a strange land. Okay, so what do we do now? We find ourselves as students of our Sedra trapped in a rabbinic dictum. Tafasta baruba lo tafasta. If you try to hold on to too much, you're going to end up with nothing. So let's just focus on one element in this awesome Torah portion. The land route Abram took from the time he left his father's house, Fertile Crescent, until he gets to Canaan. If you have the newly revised edition of the Plow Torah commentary, I suggest that you look at the map on page 56. That'll make things a little bit easier to follow. What we can know with some certainty is that Abram traveled from Ur to Haran on his way to Canaan. The Fertile Crescent, Ur, Haran, Canaan. We also know that Abram's father's name was Terach. So why is that interesting? Stick with me on this. The two centers of moon worship in ancient Mesopotamia were in, you got it, Ur and Haran. Terach, the name given to Abram's father, is probably from the same Semitic root as Yareach. What does the word Yareach mean? Oh, moon. Rabbinic tradition is filled with references to competition between the sun and the moon. So it's highly doubtful that the rabbis were playing with some meaningless game here. Many of us know that there was strong evidence to believe that the Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten was a monolatrist or a henotheist. Those are real words. To put it simply, this pharaoh, who lived about 100 years before the putative date of the Exodus, sought to establish the primacy of only one god in Egypt, Aton or Ra, the sun god. Oh, the sun god. And one of the best known deserts in southern Israel today, the Arava, is known as Midbar Sin. Sin is one of the names for the Mesopotamian moon god. Sun, moon. While we're at this, please note that the battle for superiority in Jewish tradition between the sun and the moon is well established. They really go at each other at various times in the Midrashim and in certain teachings. Pehid. Shabbat comes once every 7 days and runs from sundown to sundown. It's a solar event. But Rosh Chodesh is based upon observation of the phases of the moon. Biblical literature makes clear that at a certain point in time, Rosh Chodesh, the observance of the new moon, was as religiously important as the Shabbat. Sun and moon. The earliest phases of Judaism, as recorded in the Torah, reflected a drive to move from polytheism to some form of henotheism and monolatry, and then on to an exclusive focus on the monotheistic worship of either the sun or the moon, until finally opting for a monotheism that embraces one who is considered to be the source, the creative source of both the sun and the moon. So God's very existence resolves this conflict between whether the sun or the moon is in fact the one ruler of our world. Our Sedra opens with God telling Abram, Lech Lecha, get out, Abram, get out. You and your descendants must leave the Mesopotamian heartland of moon worship. You will then absorb the yearning for oneness that you will find in Egypt. But then your descendants will leave Egypt both what? Physically and metaphorically, and discover the one true God whose presence is the source of the cosmos itself. This is the Jewish people's ongoing search for a spiritual understanding as to who we are and what in God's holy name is our place in this world. Let it be clear. We learn in this process from everyone. We are travelers toward truth, the way Abram was a traveler toward truth. His journey is the journey of each and every one of us. His journey to discover a structure for the world, meaning for his place, relationships with the infinite. That's all our work as well. So may our journeys be blessed as his was, with rich new insights that will elevate our souls. Okay, we've got to stop. Shabbat Shalom as each one of us considers our place in that incredible journey. And please don't forget to hit share so that others may join us as we pursue truth in our universe. Bye-bye.